the call, should I say.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Hello, Colleen.
Hello, how are you?
I don't know what's going on with this talk, but today we've got technical issues trying to log on. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I wondered what was happening. Oh, shame. Oh, okay. Glad that you could get it up and going.
Sure, I'll jump off as soon as it's up.
Session, can we see a little bit more of you? Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining our session this morning. Bata South Africa is hosting a session on a topic around how do we support our children. And I'd like to welcome you all. It's lovely to see you. Kamara, I haven't seen you in such a long time. Thank you so much for joining us. And to Lungi, Mira, Natasha, thank you all of you for joining us. I'd like to introduce you to the panel that is with us today. We have online with us is Swastika from Bata South Africa, the Group Marketing Manager. We have Adele, who is the MD of the President's Award. We have Colleen, who is a clinical psychologist, as well as the headmaster for Kingswood College. We have Deontay and Sashin. Give us a bit of a wave, you two. And they are part of the Youth Board of Directors. We also have on screen Shay, who will be supporting us from a technical perspective. Please do drop a note in the chat room. Tell us where you're dialing in from. I'm sitting here in a very hot, humid Durban. So I hope you're enjoying the heat and you are having a wonderful morning with us. So over the next hour, we are going to be chatting about how do we support our children. And we have two wonderful children online that can assist us with giving us their view from a child's perspective. We do want to let you know that the session is being recorded. We are on live on Facebook, so we will be taking in some questions from the Facebook side as well. This is a webinar. Sorry, this is not a webinar, it is an open platform. So if you have any questions, please either put them in the chat or put your hand up and we are here to have a discussion with you. Say hello, put your questions in the chat room and let's get going with this morning's session. Over to you, Colleen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity of coming to talk to all of you about mental health and mental wellness. I think in terms of us going through a pandemic at the moment, I think our mental wellness has really been exacerbated. So as a psychologist and based in a schooling environment, I'm well aware that this is often a conversation that we don't focus on. The emphasis is a lot on academic wellness and the academic, which is the core business of this age group. But we're so aware that more and more we need to be giving attention to the conversations around mental wellness. So I work very much from a salutagenesis model, which means we don't focus on illness, but we focus on wellness. And as parents, we need to have conversations with our children about their wellness and their well-being. And so I often get asked, well, how do you go about seeing how your child is in terms of their mental wellness? And I always say to them, there's a lovely rule of thumb. There will always be a day where your child does not feel happy or where your child is slightly anxious. That is normal. I think we need to normalize emotions and be comfortable with our children experiencing emotions. The moment we should become concerned is when we look at the intensity and the duration of those emotions. So that's a lovely rule of thumb. If you notice that your child is feeling sad or irritated, and we normally say it's about a 10-day period, that's when we need to really start looking at how we're going to assist in terms of getting assistance for our child. But you can start with some basic mechanisms at home. Parents often don't speak to their children about their emotions. So a lovely rule of thumb is on a daily basis to ask your child, what are the 3 things today that they really enjoyed? And what are the 3 things today that they did not enjoy, that possibly made them feel uncomfortable or made their heart feel sore? And just by starting to get your children to recognize the emotions associated with what makes them feel happy or positive and actually naming them, you are growing their emotional intelligence. And by them being able to name the things that have made them feel uncomfortable and sad, you are also growing their emotional intelligence. It's so important to not only think about their wellness in terms of their emotions, but I have a lovely acronym that we use with psychology, and that's what we call the SMSPE acronym. It's lovely to remember. You send an SMS and we've got a city PE, which is close to Makanda where I live. And I always say to parents, check in on your child's SMSPE daily. What does the SMSPE stand for? Ask them about their spiritual wellness. Ask them about their mental wellness. The second S is their social wellness. The P is their physical wellness. And the E is their emotional wellness. So you see, their well-being is not just emotions. There are other facets as well. If I could quickly expand on that. When we speak about spiritual wellness, that's the child's sense of belonging, their sense of acceptance, their sense of purpose. It's a conversation we often don't have with our children, but it's that sense of what do you feel you're getting out of your day to day, and what do you want to put into your day? That is their spiritual wellness. Their mental wellness is checking in on their academics, and this is what parents do well. How was your test today? How did you do in terms of your homework? Is your homework done? We're very good at checking in on our children's mental wellness or academic wellness. The third one is their social wellness, relationships. Ask them about their friends. Ask them about their relationship with their teachers. Ask them about something that's making them feel uncomfortable, about their own identity in terms of who they're forming friends with. Speak to them about peer pressure. That's part of social wellness. And then the P, physical wellness. Don't forget to check in. Are our children eating? Are they eating fruit? Are they drinking water? Are they getting physical exercise? Are they sleeping? When you wake up in the morning, it's such a rush, and we often don't just check in. Are they able to sleep? Did they have enough rest? Because life is so manic for parents that we sometimes forget to check in on our children's wellness in terms of that. And then the E is their emotional wellness, and it's lovely. It's like a bank account. You can't give if you don't fill up. So I always say to parents, we've got to make sure emotionally our children nourish before they flourish. And the only way children can nourish is to be filling up on their spiritual, mental, social, physical wellness, because that will then contribute to their emotional wellness. And so these are conversations we've got to be having with our children. I'll stop at that point and leave it as a bit of an introduction.
Sorry, just finding my unmute button. Colleen, that is really two really special things that I've learned just from that quick conversation, that SMSPE. And it's like a little checklist for us as parents that we can then just automatically go during the day and check in. And as as you quite rightly say, I think we check in on one element more so than the others. And then the second part that I really took out of that conversation was the nourish before flourish. And I just love that way. And I think trying to explain that to my children will assist them in understanding how important it is to nourish just your body as well as your mind equally. I just wanted to find out if there were any questions coming through.
While you're waiting for those questions, I just want to add 2 points. I think it's important that parents have to also check their own SMSPE, because our children model us as parents. So you can't only be focusing or checking in on your children's SMSPE. And it's quite a habit you get into. And remember, habits form in 14 days. But if you as a parent every day do a check, how am I doing spiritually, mentally, socially, physically, emotionally, and being aware of your own well-being, you're definitely going to have an impact on your child. And then the second thing I want to say is very often we focus on the area that we're doing the worst at. So if you look at your SMSPE, you'll quickly say, oh, my physical wellness, I'm not doing so well. I'm not drinking enough water. And then we suddenly give attention to that. I want to encourage parents to say, focus on what you're doing well and do more. And that'll then impact the other areas. And same with the child. If a child's social wellness is really where they're experiencing joy, you don't need to suddenly take away from that and make them focus on their physical wellness. Give attention to the social wellness and let them do more of that, because that will then affect the other areas as well.
Colleen, just a question. When you're checking with your children and the answer is often, I'm fine. It's quite difficult to get more out of a child when you are getting, I am fine. How do we as parents encourage our children to participate more in conversation and to answer some of those questions that we are focusing on from the SMSPE?
I always say to parents, it's very much how you ask your question and not what you ask. So if you say, how was your day? They're going to say, fine. If you say, tell me about your day, you're possibly going to get a different response. So I think we as adults just need to be aware of the beauty of open and closed questions. And sometimes to be comfortable that our children don't want to talk. It's the biggest mistake we make. We fetch them from school, they've had a busy day, and what do we do? 20 questions. How are you? What happened? Did you get your work done? How was that test? Instead of getting into an environment where you feel comfortable and less pressured, and then to ask those questions when the child is ready to share with you, but then being aware that you're not asking them from a critical point of view. We very often have a critical parent stance. Children are more likely to react to you if you have a nurturing parent stance. So I'm asking these questions to check how you're doing, not to check what you're doing, not doing. And I think that's very important.
I want to thank you, Colleen, for that insightful answers. I want to ask, I think COVID has had an impact on us all in one way or another. And as an adult, how I've coped with it, how you've coped with it, and I feel for our children. One of the parents on the social media platform is saying, we as parents are so overwhelmed, so we need to imagine how this is affecting our kids. What is it that we can do for our kids to help them through this?
You're absolutely right. COVID has exacerbated absolutely everything that was lying dormant in our own worlds that we were possibly struggling to make sense with. And so we're feeling slightly unsettled, we're feeling anxious, and we've withdrawn from society. So how much more has this caused anxiety in our children, because they're dealing with their own anxiety, but they're also seeing our anxiety. That comes back to my previous point. As a parent, you've got to stop and you've got to look at your own well-being before you try and give attention to your child's well-being. And we often do it the other way because our children take priority. And we think as long as we're checking in on them and giving them assistance, they're going to be okay. But there's nothing more unsettling for a child when their parent is not okay. And so that process where you daily check in on your own well-being is vitally important, because that will immediately have a spin-off on your child's well-being.
Thank you, and agree so totally with that. And Natasha has just said that she has a son that's turning 17 tomorrow who was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and BPD, and found that lockdown worked in her favor. So that's fantastic.
Wonderful
To hear that positive coming out of it. I have some other questions from Anthikos. What impact will the lockdown have on young children, toddlers, in the long term?
It's such an interesting one, because there is this thought of what will be the impact, and we're all really looking forward to actually seeing. We're even waiting for matric results to be able to see what the impact has had on the year academically. But I want to say to everybody, I think we get what we notice, so we must notice what we want to get. I'll say that again. We get what we notice, so we must notice what we want to get. I do think that there is a sense of resilience and grit that has been fostered in children. And that is something that's going to set them apart and make them change makers in the future. We're all very concerned about the negative things, and I think that's why I love the previous parent's comment. There is some good that's come out of this, and so we've got to focus on what are the elements that have built the child up, or given them a sense of pausing and enjoying the things they never got time to do. Also in the lockdown, children had time with parents, which was valuable. So that was incredibly valuable. So that family bond that was created in that time is another positive. So will there be negatives? I do believe. What will they be? I do think there is a sense of children perhaps being slightly more anxious and more withdrawn. But children are resilient. They are going to move through this pandemic, I think, easier than us as adults. And again, we mustn't transfer our concern about the long-term effect on this pandemic on our children, because they are going to most definitely move through this. And they're going to rise to the occasion as they move forward.
I think that's fantastic, and to be able to identify positives that are coming out of this COVID situation that we're all going through. And I want to ask Adele, if she doesn't mind unmuting, that she can maybe add in the reasoning why give us a little bit of background about the President's Awards and what an opportune time it is now to be able to pick up on this, and what a positive it can bring into everybody's life. Adele, can you help us with that?
Yes, thank you, Dion. I am unmuted. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can.
And yeah, thanks for asking me to join you as well. This is a lovely opportunity to speak to the learners out there, the participants out there. And Colleen, I love the SMSPE. I think it's something that we can carry through at the President's Award as well. As a parent, a grandparent, I love it for me to check into. So in terms of the President's Award, we've partnered with Bata, and simply because we know how passionate Bata is about education and assisting kids, and that's the reason for us partnering. The President's Award being more than 30 years old in South Africa, doing absolutely amazing work, originally with President Nelson Mandela, looking at the fact that academics is not just the key focus in education. So when one looks at it, like Colleen said, when it comes to mental stimulation and education, every parent looks at academics. How well is my child doing in math, science, English? But at the end of the day, what about the EQ? How does that EQ add into everything that is done as well? So the correlation between academics or formal education and non-formal education is key. I've worked with projects before, and you often find that immediately, somebody wants to go into the classroom and look at academics and push. The kids need to get 75% in maths and science. But when you walk into that classroom and you look at that kid trying to do the maths and science, and you figure out that they're not there. They're actually not there mentally and physically, because they don't actually understand, or they've come from a home where the mom and dad have been drinking the entire night, or there's been fights because of a divorce that's going through, or they're looking after their little baby brothers and sisters. So nobody actually understands what the kid is going through in their own home environment. So with the President's Award, we look at all those, the impacts and what we can bring to the party regarding these particular individuals that join the program. And some of the outcomes that we look at for the young people is confidence, building confidence is one of the things, managing feelings, being resilient and determined. How do you become this resilient participant, or this resilient little girl coming out there and being determined to actually excel? We look at relationships and leadership, also creativity and adaptability. So in terms of the framework, the award framework, we cover that and much more. And then in terms of the outcomes, obviously we're looking at outcomes and measurable impacts from that. And the award framework is based in such a way that it covers physical recreation, it covers service, which is like service to the community. The participants go on adventurous journeys, which helps them also understand how to work in teams, how to enjoy themselves, the social well-being of the child. And then we look at the physical recreation as well, which brings in one of the points that Colleen's mentioned as well in terms of the SMSPE. So some of the measurable impacts is really improved educational attainment, which then again is a correlation from what we do in terms of EQ and how it fits into IQ, and look at that in terms of academics and see the difference it makes in the child's schooling behavior as well. We look at improved employability and sustainable livelihoods, improved health and well-being, increased participation in society and the civic life, social inclusion. We look at gender equality and the empowerment of women and the difference that makes. So knowing that gender-based violence is a hot topic at the moment, we look at how we can assist them in terms of leadership development, specifically as females and the youth, young females. And then obviously
that is so many things that the child gains from your program. It is a phenomenal program, and it's an amazing time for children to be getting involved with this kind of thing. You know, they're all staying at home, being safe in a safe environment. So for them to be getting involved with your program is absolutely phenomenal. And what they take home with them and the skills that they learn is just amazing. I can't wait to hear some more about it. If I can just stop you there, I've got questions streaming in from all directions, which I'd like to present to both of you. So let's just go on to the first question, where I've got a question from Alison, and maybe both of you can assist me with this. My toddler used to be so outgoing, comfortable around people, and after a year of being at home, she's pulled back a lot. I want to go home, not sure how to help her. So she always wants to be home. I know that a 4-year-old is a little bit low for your program, Adele, but I'm sure that a lot of teenagers are going through something similar, where they have lost their social skills. How does the President's Award assist them with that? How do we get them to utilize the President's Award to build that confidence again?
Dion, at this point in time, that's where technology actually comes into play. As much as, in the good old days, and I often say to my kids, we played in the street. We played, those type of games. You've got to go out and go and play. At this point in time, with COVID specifically, IT, technology, all the technical skills has really worked in our favor. So we look at creating things where they can get together, but in a technical environment. And that's where technology plays a big game.
Yes, that's
still getting and at the same time talking to them about what they can do in their homes. So for instance, bake grandma a little cake, sit and talk to grandma, tell a little child a story. So you're sitting with this 4-year-old as youth telling another child a story. So those type of skills of, you actually sitting at home, not thinking that you've got nothing to do, but rather thinking of how you can better yourself and what you can do out there. So there's a lot that they can still do. And yes, technology has played a great part for us in this point in time.
Thank you. And Colleen, do you have any advice from your side?
I just want to add to that. So what Adele is saying, it's incredible how at that age you are building a child's character. And if you look at developmental psychology and the character traits that are most formed and honed during that stage, it's the character traits of kindness, of gratitude, and of creativity. And that leads to cheerfulness. So if you find a child just wants to be at home and they want to be withdrawn, not socialize, it's exactly what Adele was saying. Those creative things, thinking out of the box, getting them to explore their social surrounding in their home, but almost doing things you normally wouldn't do with them. And I'm going to give a crazy example. It's like making instant pudding and letting them play in the buckets and getting out of the comfort zone, experiencing cheerfulness, experiencing the creativity. Let's paint with custard today. Those are the traits that you then start in the 4 or 5-year-old. You then start building the confidence again. You see their cheerful. We've got to give children permission to experience joy daily. And they're not going to do it in COVID if we as parents are not creating the mechanism for them to experience joy. But I want to assure this mother, our children are resilient. And this is definitely a phase. There's nothing that you can't remediate up to the age of 13. So we all know we're going through this. It is going to affect us, but we are going to be able to move through this. But give your child permission to experience joy and be creative.
And I know that somebody's ears perked up when you said, let them play with custard and instant pudding. And I want to hear from Sashin how he feels about that idea. Does that not sound like fun, Sashin?
It does sound like much fun for a lot of children because it makes them see what they like to do and if they actually want to connect with that.
I love that, Sashin. Thank you so much. Colleen, we do have another question, and the question is coming from Robin. School is becoming quite demanding. How do we help and manage the time, as burnout can be very real?
Absolutely. I think it's an absolute, just a race. It's constant. The pressure is on. The day is intense. The workload is heavy. And so I believe that if you focus on the task, it's going to be giving attention to what gives more anxiety. But if you focus on the character traits that can be developed to assist with the task. So as parents, we're always asking about the task, but we're not spending time talking about managing time, talking about confidence, talking about work ethic, talking about resting, that you don't need to go. You've got to set a pace that works for you and give yourself rest. But they're not going to do that if they don't see you as a parent doing that. So I always say if we are growing the character traits that it can assist with the task, that should be where our attention is as parents. But we admit we are absolutely in a stage where it just feels like it's getting more pressured. But I found working in a school, COVID and the pandemic has given us a reset. We're re-looking at things that we don't need to give attention to anymore. Things that were done because they always were done, but they don't need to be because they're just creating extra time in your schedule. And so there's been a real good recalibration in most schools. And so I really want to encourage parents that if they feel that recalibration has not happened, talk to the teachers, challenge the teachers to relook at what is important and what is just being done for the sake of being done. If something is happening in a school day that's not growing a child's character while they're growing the other aspects like their academics, then we need to make sure that those elements should be phased out so that our children have more time to experience rest, to experience creativity, and to experience the general joy of just being fully present in a day.
Thank you, Colleen. I want to direct a question to our beautiful Mia, who has just joined us. Mia is part of the Youth Board of Directors and an ambassador for Bata. Mia, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I know you've just listened to all of that, but I want to know from a teenager's point of view, somebody that is within a busy lifestyle, how are you coping with a busy lifestyle within a COVID world? And what is your advice to your peers out there on what they can do if they need help? Oh, Mia, I can't hear you. I can see you lips moving, but I can't hear you. Is that better?
Can you hear now?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you
cool.
now.
Yes, okay, cool. So I don't even know where to start because there's so many important factors that needs to be touched on. For me, I personally have always struggled with things like anxiety and depression, and I've hit some very lows in my life. And during lockdown, it was a very tough time for me because I am an introvert and um, I get really tired from social events. But what I didn't realize before this entire lockdown COVID thing is that I really do need the social interactions because I just withdrew even further into my shell during this lockdown period. And it really took my mother, because parents do play a very important role in our lives. She forced me to get into the groove of things again. She forced me to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and make my bed and do certain tasks during the day, because I think lockdown provided a time for a lot of teenagers, and I can say this because I've talked to a lot of my friends about this as well. It has provided a way for us to become lazy and become withdrawn, and this has increased anxiety now that we have to go back to school and we have to go back into social gatherings because we don't know how to handle it. So I think the most important thing is to always maintain a routine and to always keep going, because like Colleen said, I think it's Colleen that said it, there are so many ways for us to keep busy during inside our houses. We can jog just in front of our house if we need to. We need to get physical exercise. We have to maintain a healthy diet, because these are all very important aspects that, and it's the most important thing is that children know how to use these factors in their lives, because it is one thing for a parent to ask how your day was, but it's another thing for a child to gain the confidence and not be affected by something that happens on social media or something that happens under peer pressure, because it must come from within the child. They have to build that confidence. So yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And I watch you on a daily basis as you've grown, and you're doing such a phenomenal job. So you keep going at that. I see that there are some more questions about how do you enter the President's Award? How do you get your child to take part in it? I'd like to ask Swastika to please join us on the call and talk to us on why you chose the President's Award for the children of South Africa and what it means to Bata South Africa.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly with the mask. It's just that I've got others around me. Am I still okay? Good.
We can hear you.
Okay. So at Bata South Africa, as you know, we have many brands, and Toffees is the key brand of our business. And being a brand, yes, that puts the product out into the market, this initiative was launched purely from a CSR and community perspective. It's not about chasing a sale of a product. It's purely about investing in children, because kids are the future leaders of our country, of our economy. And we decided to partner with the President's Awards as a prize for the kids, because we wanted to develop a holistic well-being for children, and not just from an academic perspective, but from a 360 perspective. That's why I love what Colleen says about SMSPE, because that makes so much sense in terms of what we are trying to achieve, as well as the President's Awards. So we introduced a campaign in December last year, which was titled Bangene, and that means it's your time, do it now, strike now. And it's simply called for kids to visit our website, or they could enter through a WhatsApp line and tell us a little bit about what they do in terms of what motivates them, what keeps them going, what drives them. And this simple motivation would enter them into a competition where we are selecting 100 kids to participate in the President's Awards at our cost. So it's just our part of giving back to these kids and helping mold them from this 360 perspective. So to come back to the query that's on the site, if you would like to visit the Toughies website, that would still be an entry platform for kids to get themselves into this program. And like I said, we will select 100 participants into the program, and this closes on the 28th of Feb. So we do have a bit of a timeline that we're being pressured by, but you could enter through there, or we have a WhatsApp line, and we'll also share this on the social media pages. But the WhatsApp number is 064-981-9784. So you can share that to any kid that's interested to participate. All of the rules, terms and conditions on the website.
We will share that link as well as the contact number in the chat room, as well as on the Facebook live chat in a couple of minutes. I thank you very much for that information about the amazing program that Bata South Africa is running. I just want to ask Deante to unmute herself so that she can tell us a couple of things about some of the social programs that she's been involved with over the last couple of weeks. Deante, do you want to update us? You've been a busy lady.
This last couple of weeks, we're trying to enforce like in our school program for children to do community work or community outreach projects to see like everyone's affected and like everyone needs a bit of help. And we're also doing weekly recycling and things like that, which we're also helping our school. And then we have, because like Colleen earlier said, physical wellness, we having a 5K run every Wednesday for all the scholars and people in our town to come and just do 5Ks. It's called the Leopard Run, just to get everyone on a physical wellness. And our teachers are helping with our sorry. Sorry.
You don't need to worry. You're doing such a brilliant job, and you're doing so much out there, and it can be very intimidating. And I also often lose my words or forget words. So don't worry about it at all. You're doing a superb job. And I love all the charity work that you're doing out there. So we will be following you, and hopefully you'll be joining the President's Award to get that award at the end of the day as well for all of that work that you're doing. We do have a couple of other questions. Colleen, if we can just go over to you. And I think with just the one question that's popped up, will this generation be permanently scarred from the experience of their formative years?
So as I said at the beginning, I work very much from a salatogenesis model, which always focuses on the positive. And for me, I do not think there's going to be permanent scarring. Will there be permanent differences? Yes, I do think so. But the word scarring means it's long-term, and it almost seems as if it's going to sit with them forever. I think things are going to sit with them forever, but we got to take what's the good out of that. So I always say, let's acknowledge that we're going through a pandemic. These children are going to be able to tell their children and their grandchildren that they lived through a pandemic and how it impacted them. But if they are able to speak about how it impacted them positively as well, I think the positive could overshadow the aspects that might affect them longer term. So definitely we need to turn the obstacle into a hurdle. Children are resilient. I often have questions when I work with children in therapy, if children go through, parents going through a divorce, or if they've experienced a trauma. There is an incredible coping mechanism in children that we need to know. Children are resilient. They're adaptable. and they're able to harness coping mechanisms that help them move through difficult situations. And I think more than ever, they're going to harness those coping mechanisms. I love what Mia said. A coping mechanism for her is a routine. That is spot on. I always say to children who are slightly sad, if you've got out of bed in the morning, you are already on your way to having a good day. If you've got out of bed and made your bed, you're going to have a successful day. So it's those little victories that they need to notice and celebrate and do more of, because that will grow their resilience and their coping mechanisms.
Thank you, Colleen, for that. And on that positive note, I want to say thank you to everybody for being part of this call. First, a little thank you to Bata South Africa for giving the opportunity to the children of South Africa to enter the President's Awards, to Adele for putting the President's Awards and putting all the operations behind it together for the children of South Africa. For our darling ambassadors of Bata South Africa, Deante, Mia, Sashin, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And to Colleen, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Something that I will never forget is the SMSPE. It will stay with me every day through my parenting skills. Thank you for joining us, and I do hope you enjoyed the session with us today, and hope to see you back here on the Bata South Africa page in enjoying toughies. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.